Welcome to your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 18th of November. I'm going to share some standout details to begin with, and there's some big news this week for sure. We're very much in a change agenda, but change can be very positive, but it also can be disruptive, and we get both of those principles this week. Then on screen, I'm going to share with you the event chart right at the start of the week. That always provides some important insights. Then, as influences come in as the week goes on, I'll unpick all of those before going through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces to give you a flavour of what to expect in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. People sometimes ask, what do I watch, the ascendant or the sun? If you know your natal chart well, you're comfortable with the ascendant. If you're less sure, you'll never go wrong with the sun. It's the core of your being. Now, right at the start of this week, we do see an opposition between the sun and Uranus. This was caught up in the full moon of last week. The sign of Taurus, where Uranus is very much about continuity, but Uranus likes change. Scorpio, where the sun is very much where we're most deeply committed. It's those important relationships, the ones which can be quite long-lasting, quite deep, but also it can be to do with our finances and also our intimate encounters. So Uranus being opposite the sun at the start of this week suggests that when we're thinking about our long term, there may be some immediate, short-term, chaotic conditions or changes which could be quite disruptive. But on Tuesday, Pluto, the planet of change, returns back to the sign of Aquarius for the third time. This time, he's going to be there through to 2043. We'll nip into Pisces before returning back into Aquarius, but back to Pisces in 244. It's a big news story. But did you know Pluto's aligning with the sun in a sextile all through this week? First of all, whilst it's still in Capricorn and with the sun in Scorpio, and then as the week goes on and the sun bursts into the exuberant Sagittarius on Thursday, well then the sun in Sagittarius forges an amazing link with Pluto in Aquarius. So the two planets of freedom come together in a very connected and dynamic way as this week goes on. But also at the start of the week, Neptune, the planet of dreams, but also spirituality, forges a beautiful link to the sun, suggesting that whatever we're finding that's difficult at the present time, if we try to align ourselves with a higher purpose, it's going to be much easier to go with what's unfolding. Now, before I share the event chart and go through that, just to say, if you'd like to get your free gift of your Zodiac, General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025, you can do so if you order your personal horoscope. You also get the rest of this year free, 30% off, and your life roadmap report. The combination of all this information is incredible value. Please see below for more. Also, please do comment, like or subscribe to my channel. Please send those signals to YouTube and help the channel thrive. On the screen now is the event chart right at the start of the week. Now, the big takeout for me is actually the combination of Jupiter and the moon. So the moon's passed over Jupiter as last week came to a close. Now that's one of the most buoyant combinations you can possibly have. So you may have enjoyed some kind of uplifting conversation as the weekend came to a close, or perhaps there was something that needed to be digested, because as much as Jupiter and the moon can be very generous, and certainly in the sign of Gemini very sociable, Jupiter is in its retrograde. It is also in detriment, and of course the moon has also gone opposite Mercury whilst it went over Jupiter. So as we come into this new week, as much as that does give us an opportunity to be very upbeat and positive, it's also important to try to work through whatever has been going on. Now, I mentioned about the Sun forging a beautiful link to Neptune, and there it is. Neptune in the 12th house, very much about the more psychological and spiritual domain. The Sun in Scorpio, about where we're most deeply in, but you can see that opposition to Uranus too. For some people, it may make them a little bit impulsive about spending some money. Perhaps they want to break out of some of the recent constraints, rebel a little bit. And if there is a situation, whether it is a job, a friendship, some kind of connection to someone romantically that isn't really working, the leftovers from last week's full moon are still reverberating into this week, and that combination suggests there could still be a desire to break free of anything that no longer serves our purpose. But you can also see that the Sun is in that sextile with Pluto, very much to do with change. Of course, the Sun in Scorpio has been forging that sextile to Pluto all the time since 2008. Scorpio can be about long-term financial investment, planning, legacies, those kind of things. And of course, Pluto in Capricorn can be about property. Is there something you're transforming in your world that is to do with making the most of your resources, perhaps in an imaginative and quite unique way? Perhaps that's the energy of Uranus in a more positive manner that could influence the start of this week. But on Tuesday, as I mentioned before, Pluto moves into Aquarius. It first went there on the 27th of March 2023, back into Aquarius on the 21st of January, its birthday this year, before inverting back into Capricorn on the 2nd of September. So its return to Aquarius has therefore given us a couple of visits, first one 11 weeks, and the second one over 20 weeks to get more familiar with what's coming. But there are some people who see Pluto in Aquarius as a kind of panacea, but we must be aware that the sign of Aquarius can be a little detached, cool. We have heard the word dystopian used recently. Well, I feel it's quite appropriate in a way, because it is about how it's going to affect us all collectively, but that doesn't mean to say it's all going to be an upside. So that's where the aforementioned that we've often talked about, automation, robotics, AI, all that kind of stuff. Yes, there may be some things that are very positive within that, but some that will have a direct impact on how we link to one another, but also how we find our higher purpose, which is what the sign of Aquarius is all about. But then, on Thursday, the Sun makes its way into the sign of Sagittarius, which is about expanding our horizons, being more adventurous. It can be to do with travel, higher education, and it can also be to do with philosophies too. But that link back in that sextile on Thursday, which is exact to Pluto, is really exciting, particularly if you are born at the start of Sagittarius or Aquarius, or perhaps at the start of Gemini. And you'll be doing okay if you're born at the start of the fire signs too. However, by Saturday there is a quarter moon, and it's a reminder that reality strikes once more, because the sign of Sagittarius can be to do with freedom and escaping, in a sense, being much more independent minded. But in the sign of Virgo, we are reminded about our obligations, our responsibilities, the chores that we may need to do, the pledges we've made to other people. It's definitely not the day to promise to do something for someone, because you could then later down the track, because that influence lasts a week, think, oh, that's become a little bit limiting our sense of freedom, which the Sun is really wanting us to appreciate. But by Sunday, the Sun is also forging a fantastic link to Mars in Leo. So that really gives us a lot of fire energy, a lot of passion, and a great way to bring the celestial curtain down on this week. Please stay with me as I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. So Aries, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast begins with the North Node in your sign linking beautifully to your ruler Mars. Now Mars is very much about action, it's also very much about assertion, but in the sign of Leo it's very much about glowing things up. It's about demonstrating your charisma and confidence. The North Node has been pushing you to get in touch with what really defines you as an individual. So the two collaborating together is a great start to the week. If you need to talk to somebody, the combination of the Moon and Jupiter certainly gives you a lot of bubbly enthusiasm. But also the Sun in the deep sign of Scorpio is face to face with Uranus still. If you are feeling restless, particularly in any situation where you feel a bit hemmed in, there could be a desire to break out in some way. And later in the week, you can actually actualize that. But at this point in the week, you could also find yourself feeling very nostalgic for someone from your past because of the Sun's link to Neptune. If it's a romantic person you used to be involved with, if you do get together this week, it could be electric. But whether the connection can be passionate, the big question is, can you make it go forwards in a more joined up way? And that may be a little bit more challenging. However, if you're wanting to rework your long-term financial plan with the Sun in such a positive alliance with Pluto early in the week, you can formulate the last details of that. But once Pluto moves on Tuesday, whether it is about that or connecting with that old flame or an old friend, things will start to gain traction. But the big moment is the Sun's arrival in your sister fire sign of Sagittarius on Thursday and linking back to the position of Pluto back in Aquarius. Because here you have the 11th house, your long-term plan, the 9th house of the Sun, a desire to be more adventurous and perhaps more spontaneous, get on the front foot. And that energy is given even more traction when, as the week draws to a close, the Sun reaches out to your ruler Mars too. So a tremendous amount of extra passion and fire comes into this week. Just be mindful of the quarter moon on Saturday. It is saying to you that there may still be some workaday tasks and chores that do need to be attended to. But as the week comes to a close, I think you're going to be feeling much more on form in that more typically flamboyant and dynamic Aries way. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Taurus, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast sees the power of last week's full moon in your sign still reverberating around the heavens. But you could be feeling somewhat conflicted. Why? You have a natural appreciation of continuity, of stability and security. But Uranus, which was so influential on that event, is pushing you, provoking you to get in touch with the most unique and individual part of your nature. Also, your ruler Venus starts this week in house 9, very much about your higher truth, but the potential for change. It's edging forwards to forge an alliance with Saturn in your sector of long-term planning. Now Saturn's also asking some searching questions. Do you stick with what you know because it feels comfortable and safe, or do you go for what's really right for you? So that can be the big question at the start of this week. And because Mars is in a very emotional part of your chart, linking back to the North Node in a very psychological one, you may have been chewing over these themes over the weekend and perhaps opening up to someone you can really trust. Now, right at the start of the week, there could be part of you that wants to do something to enjoy yourself, to offset a decision, or just to have some instant pleasure as the Moon and Jupiter combine. But the Sun, in its link with Pluto on Monday and at the start of Tuesday, do give you a chance to prime up your future plan forwards, but it will involve some changes. And when Pluto returns back to Aquarius, remember it's been in Aquarius twice before, This time, you're much clearer about the things you don't want to do professionally. You may have tried some different things over the last couple of years. They may not have all been long lasting. But once the sun connects to the position of Pluto on Thursday, when the sun moves deep for you into your 8th house, you can ask yourself some very searching questions about what you truly want. It is difficult sometimes to give up something that gives us something, but that could be the essential dilemma that you find yourself right at the start of this week. However, if you are feeling very much on the front foot and you're excited about what's to come, you want to raise your profile and be much more dynamic about your professional situation, you have a great chance to strut your stuff. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Gemini, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast suggests, as last week came to a close and you entered this week, things may have been quite bubbly with the moon and Jupiter in your sign. However, Mars in your 3rd house, very much to do with your ideas and passion, is also linking back brilliantly to the North Node. So if you're thinking about your long-term future or discussing things, that can create some excitement. But if you have got some everyday routines, chores, obligations and commitments which are not really enjoyable, Uranus's opposition to the Sun at the start of this week and the energy of last week's full moon still ricocheting around the heavens may see you ultimately have to grapple with something, even if you've been a little reluctant to do that over that aforementioned weekend. Now, once Pluto moves back into your sister air sign of Aquarius on Tuesday, the Sun moves into your opposite sign on Thursday, and they connect. If there is someone you can align with, collaborate with, cooperate with, and you both have a similar philosophy or an enjoyment of travel or a shared interest, that particular alliance can go from strength to strength. And Mars comes back into its own towards the end of the week, forging a great link to the position of the Sun. So if there is someone that you're drawn towards, it doesn't have to be romantically, but you just feel that pull, that connection, you're going to have a lot more determination to take the steps forwards to invigorate this situation and make it come to life. So it can be a very exciting end to the week. I think the quarter moon, which occurs towards the end of the week, however, just suggests that somebody close to you may not necessarily share your enthusiasm for this new relationship, but I do feel that you're going to feel much more powered up and focused as this week draws to a close. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Cancer, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast begins with your ruler, the moon, in a very private part of your chart, but very close to Jupiter. You may have felt very nostalgic over the weekend, or perhaps you needed to take some time out to reflect and process some of the excitement from last week's full moon, which may have primed up some big choices for you. Now, when it comes to a relationship matter, and not necessarily a personal one, perhaps to do with your professional situation, the fact that Venus continues in a very harmonizing part of your chart, and as the week goes on, steps into a very stable link with Saturn, suggests that there is someone you could talk to that you know will give you some very solid but very honest feedback. Then do reach out to them, because the move of Pluto on Tuesday into the sign of Aquarius for the 3rd time could make you much more conscious of the ramifications of some big decisions around relationships since 2008, whether you've been on the end of them or whether you've been the one who made those decisions. But the practicality at the end of this week, as the Sun moves into house 6, links brilliantly to the Sun, suggests if you do want to get going with an entrepreneurial idea, resources squeezing more from your resources in a more efficient way, there's the chance to do it. The quarter moon just says don't try to do too much. Just focus on one or two strands that are really important, and then the energy of the sun applying to Mars, just as we get to the very end of the week, will give you such a burst of focus but also drive as we prime ourselves up to go into the week following this one. You're going to be really revved up to hit that in a very decisive way. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Leo, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast begins with Mars in your sign, forging a great link to the North Node. That can give you a real sense of decisiveness, or can it? Because last week's full moon may have brought up some real challenges in terms of your work-life balance, and you could feel quite unsettled about your professional situation, particularly if it's having an impact on your emotional life, your family, or where you live. But things are going to evolve this week in a very dynamic way. Not least, you can reach out to someone at the start of this week who's a friend or confidant who has a big picture view of life, and they actually can give you a lot of support. Also, on Tuesday, Pluto moves back into your sector of relating. If you do need to set a boundary with someone, that's going to help you, but particularly from Thursday, because then the sun will move into your sister fire sign of Sagittarius. The combination with Pluto is incredibly strong. And what the sun's move into Sagittarius will do is help you to really deploy the full range of your charisma, confidence and verve. So you're going to shine up in a big way from Thursday, but that can also help you to come across to other people in a way which commands respect, but also can command admiration. And I feel that the dynamics are really shifting by the end of the week. The only thing I would say is that if there is somebody that you're drawn to new, the clash between the moon and the sun on Saturday, the quarter moon, just suggests that you're not too generous. It's a time to get to know them, not necessarily to buy them a grand gift, make a big gesture. Keep it simple. But once the sun links back to Mars in your sign on Sunday, you're going to feel so much happier than you did only a week before, because the rush of energy and vibrancy and the sense of assuredness that perhaps hasn't been there quite so much recently, because the sun moving through the sign of Scorpio undoubtedly makes you much more aware of protectiveness, of defensiveness, in terms of making sure that you maintain your security the best you can. But at the end of this week, you're going to be feeling emboldened, much more daring, and certainly much more alluring if you are single, and that's going to put a spring in your cosmic step as this week draws to a close. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Virgo, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast does see a lot of contrasting and perhaps competing energies. If you're lucky enough to be in a very productive personal relationship, it could feel very close and very loved up right at the start of the week as the sun forges a beautiful link to Neptune. So if you need to express that, you can do that with delicacy. Venus, the planet of romance, also links in a very stable way as the week goes on to Saturn in your sector of relating. But what if you're not getting on so well? The electricity from last week's full moon is still arcing through your situation. And it may be because you and the other person, and it doesn't have to be romantically, have diametrically opposite viewpoints. And it may be difficult to reconcile that. And if it all does feel a little overwhelming, the move of Pluto into a practical area Tuesday, the sun into a quieter, reflective one on Thursday, could give you the desire to just retreat a little bit and give yourself the chance to digest all this energy which has been pulsating around. Now there is a quarter moon in your sign on Saturday, and it is going to square up with the sun in Sagittarius. Maybe there's a situation where someone needs your support. Perhaps it is to do with an emotional issue, and you could feel slightly at odds with that situation, either within yourself or the position of someone else. Also, Mars is in your 12th house, which can be quite tricky, and that does link in a very constructive way to the sun as the week draws to a close, but maybe it could see an issue come to the surface which is delicate, but maybe once expressed could be for the best. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Libra, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast suggests last week may have been somewhat unsettled. The reason for that is that Uranus's connection to the full moon was in the part of your situation to do with deep commitments. But Uranus is about freedom, independence and change. Now if you are all in and it feels really authentic, actually could have sealed you in a really positive way. Or you could have just felt a bit more impulsive about your resources, spending money. And if you have got people staying over the festive period, the fact your ruler Venus is in your 4th house is bringing out that part of your nature which loves to refine and can make things very classy in terms of your home decor. And its link with Saturn later in the week suggests you could finish some kind of improvement or some changes. You could also be very generous to a good cause at the very start of this week, or do something very thoughtful for someone who's less fortunate. But as the week goes on, it gets much more dynamic and it gets much more exciting, because on Tuesday, Pluto returning to your 5th house, that's very much about demonstrating you, the personality. And because you're often so skilled at leaning into other people's needs, you're going to find through to 2043 that slowly but surely you're going to showcase you in a stronger and stronger way. Once the sun moves on Thursday and connects to Pluto, the pace of life picks up, but then the sun links back brilliantly for you to Mars in a very sociable sector towards the end of the week. And suddenly, from some of those potential decisions about are you in, are you out, about money, suddenly things are flowing along a lot more freely, and that can bring a lot of excitement. There's just one thing to be aware of. The quarter moon on Saturday is in your 12th house. A 12th house quarter moon against the sun in the 3rd can see some gossip doing the rounds. So although life can speed up, just be aware of keeping a confidence or a piece of information that's important to you very tightly sealed to your chest, because if you open up to the wrong person, they could seize on it with relish, and before you know it, the type of people or the persons you don't want to know about this private matter can have perhaps an exaggerated version of what you originally said. But a very exciting week developing as it goes on for you. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Scorpio, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast definitely sees your 2 rulers, Mars, traditional, Pluto, modern, right at the heart of proceedings this week. But last week's full moon is still very fresh. And of course, Uranus in your sector of relating has made things a little unsettled since March 2019. There may have been some exciting connections, but also some fast-moving disconnections. Did you have a fast-moving disconnection based on last week's event? Well, I feel that depends on exactly where you are in working with Uranus, because you might have got a lot more used to setting your boundaries. Because the best kind of relationships don't take away our individuality. What we can do is collaborate with someone while still being ourselves. And you may have really gained that knowledge and experience over the last 5 or 6 years. However, this week, with the sun linking to your modern ruler Pluto, right at the heart of the week, something you feel very strongly about, that you're very invested in and enthusiastic about, you can share it with conviction. In fact, your words, as Venus in your third house connects to Saturn later in the week, can be conveyed in a very sincere way. People can feel towards the end of this week that what you say is truly what you mean. But if your focus is more the professional situation, the move of your modern ruler Pluto into your fourth house, but also the sun moving out of your sign and into Sagittarius on Thursday, that connection just suggests that when it comes to making progress financially, do stay in touch with your feelings, Pluto. But Mars, right at the end of the week, augments the sun in a fantastic way. And if you really want to be very combative about standing up for what you want in a negotiation, or you're doing a presentation and you need to come across confidently with assurance, but also with conviction, you're going to have it all together as this week draws to a close. But what about that quarter moon on Saturday? Well, if there has been a friend who's been disappointing you a bit recently, maybe because your values have shown up as being divergent around some things, perhaps the recent political situation, for example, you may feel you need a bit of space. It may not be terminal. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Sagittarius, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast suggests that something may have come out last week or something may have culminated that has been to do with a sacrifice you've been making, but it may have been having quite the impact on your emotional, psychological or physical well-being. One of the challenges could be that you may work in a job or an environment where the demands keep switching and changing, or there's not a clear picture. And whilst there's part of you that loves challenges and is indomitable, it may have over a period of time had quite a wearing impact upon you. But you know, the big important player this week, I think, is actually Mars. Because although the sun's going to return to your sign after 11 months on Thursday, Pluto back to Aquarius since the 2nd of September on Tuesday, the two link magnificently on Thursday, which will definitely power you up. It's the link back that they're both making to Mars, but particularly the sun, by the end of this week, which is really going to embolden you to take a firmer grip. And when you really get a sense of what you want to achieve, Mars in the 9th house can arouse that freedom lover within you. And you've probably tried to be very, very disciplined. Maybe your practical circumstances have meant you've had to stick in with something. Maybe it's a job with a temporary contract. Maybe it's where the bosses keep changing or the terms of reference keep shifting, that kind of stuff. But if you feel that you can do something to spring yourself from that situation, be much more dynamic, much more in your own power, but most of all take control of your own destiny, by the end of this week, you have a fantastic chance to do that. Just be aware that someone close to you, perhaps an authoritative person, someone maybe like a parent or a friend or even a partner, may have a more safety first attitude to how you should approach your professional situation. But I think you need to manifest out there by the end of this coming week who you really are and what you truly stand for. And being sacrificing to the cause is a good thing, but not if it's stealing our energy. And that could be the existential question you have to ask yourself this week. Just one other piece of good news, however, Venus has been assisting your financial situation, and by the end of this week, something linked to a property matter or a generous relative may also give you a fillip. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Capricorn, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast still sees the energy of last week's full moon rocking around the heavens. And you may have found yourself doing something more spontaneously. There may have been last minute changes of plan. There may be someone that you've been drawn to recently that now you want to have some space from. Or there could still be a friend that's quite evocative. But you know, Venus really is the key, because Venus in your sign can draw a lot of goodness to you. But I feel as this week goes on, you're going to become more discriminating about who you spend your time with, because Venus is going to connect to your ruler Saturn later in the week in a sextile, and it's definitely a case of quality over quantity. But it also could see you firm up a connection to someone that maybe you've met quickly, unexpectedly, or who is in some ways a little different from the type of person that you may have in the past been drawn to. But what goes on later in the week becomes much more psychological, because the sun moves into your 12th house. That's the part of the year when we take a little bit of a breath and just assess our options, perhaps also reflect on what we've achieved over the previous 12 months. We can feel more sensitive. The sun's linking back to Mars on the last day of this week, and the Mars position in your 8th house is giving you a determination to quarry deep within yourself, to reach resources that you may not have been using quite as much as you could. Now that could be around long-term finance, but it could be around talents. It may be about how you're marshalling your resources. However, you may just need to take some time to do some research, pause and reflect. So with relationships, after all the dazzle, unpredictability, perhaps even frustration of last week feeding into this week, you're looking towards moving towards the person or the people that you can really rely upon. So the excitement was great, but also you need to have a little bit of a pause to think, reflect and digest recent events. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Aquarius, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast is rich in promise, but the energy of last week's lunation with your modern ruler Uranus in the mix could have meant there were sudden demands, expectations, changes around home, family, emotional issues, just at a time when the sun is cresting high in the sky, forging an amazing link to Pluto. Pluto has been really tough for a lot of Aquarius people since 2008, but the link between the sun in the ambitious 10th house and Pluto suggests what you've been doing behind the scenes, working on yourself, working on your talents, developing more resilience, taking things out of your life that weren't working for you. It's all preparing you for when Pluto moves back into your sign, but with the sun moving into your sector of higher values, hopes, and your long-term plan, but also your network, suddenly a dazzling connection on Thursday can see you take a giant step forwards. It doesn't change the fact that Uranus is going to continue to be a potentially provocative influence right round to the 7th of July next year. You get 4 months off for good behaviour, but Uranus will go back into Taurus from Gemini in November, but then on the 26th of April year 26 it's gone and it goes into the air Gemini, which is brilliant for you. So just know there's perhaps a little bit more turbulence to come, but I feel Pluto moving into your sign for the long term is really the thing to embrace about this week, but particularly its angle to the sun, because the sun is going to arouse within you that natural gift of communicating with people, but understanding perhaps what they want. The sun in the 11th house can also be lucky. Pluto in your sign is asking you to value your individual talents. Some Aquarius people have been saying, Capricorns have been saying it's been awful. We've had it really tough. Is it going to be awful for us? Well, remember the depositor planet, Saturn of Capricorn, is also the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So Aquarius isn't all about progression. It is also about continuity. It's a fixed sign. There are going to be some commonalities. So don't worry too much. By the end of this week, as the Sun links back to Mars, it's a fantastic connection. Your ability to come across in a confident, assured, but really self-knowledgeable way is going to be manifest. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video. So Pisces, your week commencing the 18th of November forecast begins with the Sun in House 4, very close to Jupiter, your traditional ruler. You could therefore come into this week feeling a little bit sensitive, perhaps protective. The electricity of last week's full moon still buzzing around the heavens. You may have been thinking a lot over the weekend about what you want. And one of the themes with Uranus applying to a moon is the potential for space, freedom, or needing to move around a bit. If you have been more active over the weekend, done some extra fitness work, that would be a good way of surfing that energy. But the tenderness of that Moon Jupiter position is there. However, Mars in the 6th house is giving you more stamina, and particularly at a time of the year when that extra energy can be very welcome. But it does link back to the North Node in your 2nd house of your desire to get the values at the core of your life. The Sun in your 9th house has been giving you a need to be more adventurous and perhaps more spontaneous over the last few weeks, but it does link brilliantly to Pluto in the 11th house, your long-term plan. So something could be shifting, but that shifting could be around your personal hobbies, interests, the people at the core of your life. But I think with the Sun reaching the very top of your chart on Thursday, if you're feeling unsettled professionally, that could be where the action starts to unfold, particularly by the end of this week, because the quarter moon in your opposite sign, linking back to your 10th house, means that if relationships are a bit strained where you work at the present time, the fact that Mars in your 6th house, which is very much about your ability to work efficiently and work through processes with energy, linking back to the Sun in your 10th house of ambition, can really prime you up by the end of this week to make a shift if you're not feeling you're particularly heard or validated. And also because Saturn in your sign has been limiting your energy since March 2023, it actually forges a really sweet link to Venus by the end of this week. And it's going to be those solid relationships, those trustworthy people that call out to you at this time. And if you feel that you're having to work or connect with people that lack those values, that part of your nature that can be very idealistic could come to the fore, along with the drive and ambition to do something about it in a very dynamic and positive way that shifts you into a new situation with much better opportunities. Please check out your free gift of your Zodiac General, Love, Chinese and Vedic forecast for 2025 by clicking on the link beneath this video.